now that we are live, in the next hour, I'm going to expose one of the most shocking prophecies unfolding right now, which most people aren't really. I mean, people are seeing the 10 nations, but they're looking in the totally wrong direction, guys. That's going to be the point of this live. This isn't just another prophecy video. We're going to dive deep into Daniel and Revelation. Those are two foundational Bible prophecy verses and books for this topic. We're going to dive extremely deep into it, and we're going to reveal what powerful forces are hiding from us. Okay, they're trying to lure us into looking in the wrong direction, but we are going to start looking in the right direction once we allow the Bible to speak. Okay, we're going to break down exactly which nations are involved with the 10 kings. Yes, you can know that, as you know, the Bible gives us that information, when they will rise, and most critically, how this impacts your future. How, you know, if we're going to see if you guys want to start prepping or not. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of times people will watch these videos and start prepping, like, you know, camping gear and like water, stuff like that, which I recommend. But please don't say that was because of this channel. So get ready for a deep dive. Everybody ready? We're going to connect all the scriptures together, and we're going to look at the geopolitical landscape of today and determine who are the 10 kings. All right. So let's see there. Asterisk says, hey, what's up, Jericho? How you doing? Shay says, grateful to be catching you live. Thank you, Shay. All right. And so now that we're kind of snuggled in, let's get into it. So in order to understand the 10 kings, you have to understand the book of Daniel. Okay, that's pretty much mandatory. This is like your homework, your lesson, right? You have to understand the statue of Daniel 2 that, you know, involves the feet of iron and clay, that involves the 10 kings. So the way that we're going to learn where these 10 kings come from, whether they come from the West, the European Union, which is what everybody's saying, or whether they come from somewhere different, the book of Daniel is going to be the foundation for this specific process. Okay, so an overview of Daniel 2. You have something known as Nebuchadnezzar's dream, where God essentially reveals this statue to King Nebuchadnezzar in his dream. Okay, and so you should understand biblically what this statue is about, right? What the feet and iron of clay is about as well, and the lion and leopard bear kingdoms. This is extremely, extremely important, because this is going to be our foundation, right, as we continue to build, and it's going to get real crazy. So, Daniel 2, verse 1 through 6, let's read it. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, sorry, I just want to make sure you're on there. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. Then the kings commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dream. You know, obviously he's having this dream that's really pressing upon him, and he's kind of like gathering all of his people together to try to figure out what this dream is. Okay, now, nobody was able to tell him the dream. Nobody, none of his enchanters or magic soothsayers, none of them were, except for one man named Daniel. Okay, so the Chaldeans answered the king and said, there is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand, for no great powerful king has ever asked such a thing of any magician. No one can show it to the king except the gods. Okay, so that's the key interpretation here, is that God had to be the one to reveal the dream through Daniel. It wasn't because Daniel was so special. Okay, so what he does is Daniel comes into the king, advises the king on what the dream really meant, because God gave him the answer. So the king declared to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream that I have seen in its interpretation? Daniel answered the king and said, no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or astrologers can show to the king the mystery that the king has asked. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he will be the one to make known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the last days. So this is what's going to happen in our time, or the last days. This is the dream that he was given. You saw, O king, and behold, a great image. This image was mighty and of exceeding brightness. It stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, and its legs of iron. Its feet were partly of iron and partly of clay. This includes 10 toes, right? As you looked in the dream, a stone was cut out by no human hand, and it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold all together were broken in pieces and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them could be found. Interesting. Okay, so what's happening here, guys, is he has given this vision of this statue that represents kingdoms. Okay, it says actually back here that the head of gold is the king of Babylon. So it says, "You are the one, you, O King of Kings, into whose hand he has given wherever they dwell the children of men, the beasts of the field, making them rule over them all. You are the head of gold." And so what the angel then says later, I don't have it up on screen here. What the angel says later on is that a kingdom inferior to you will rise up. That's going to be the chest and arms of silver. And then from that, there's going to be the belly and thighs of bronze. Most people think that it's just the belly, but it's actually the thighs too. That's really important. So that's essentially what we're looking at is kind of a trifold gold, silver, brass. We're seeing how as we go down the statue, the metals become stronger, more durable, but they become less valuable. So gold obviously is the most valuable. That's on top, and then preceding that is going to be the silver, the chest and arms of silver. So silver is not as valuable as gold, but it's much more durable and can be used for weapons. So what we're looking at is essentially kingdoms that are going to arise after Babylon that are going to be less valuable, perhaps even less rich, but less valuable in terms of their worth, but who are stronger. That's the point. And so what we're looking up on here on the screen is the Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar. This was the height of it. So it was mainly the Fertile Crescent, coming into Saudi Arabia, bits of Iraq. That's what it looked like. Okay. And as we continue, he says, another kingdom inferior to you shall rise after you. Okay. So we go down. This is what we're looking at with the statue. The gold was Babylon, right? And then the silver is going to represent Medo-Persia. Okay, that is going to be the kingdom that arose after Babylon took it over under Darius and Cyrus the Great. Okay, so this right here, guys, is a map of the Medo-Persian Empire. We can see how it completely took over the Middle East, went into Egypt, into North Africa, went all the way back into Afghanistan. It was a massive, massive landmass. So it's becoming less valuable, less pure, right? As the people are starting to mix together, you're getting all sorts of religions and peoples. That's the impurity of it. But it's also becoming stronger. They're starting to use stronger weapons and they're crushing and devouring everything within its place. Okay. That is going to be the second kingdom of silver. Okay. So, and yet a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. Can anybody guess what the nation was that came after Medo-Persia? What is it? Well, it is the king of Greece. It is essentially the Grecian Empire that rose up under Alexander the Great. When all of a sudden this guy just decided from his little Aegean place, I'm going to capture the world, and he did. Absolutely, like one of the craziest stories is how Alexander the Great essentially took over. Okay, now we're going to skip a few slides. This is the third nation, which is the Grecian Empire. Interesting, isn't it? Also, glorified message. What's up, brother? How you doing? That's Leroy for anybody who doesn't know. If you want to pop up, man, let me know. Okay. So this is the Grecian Empire. This is going to be the third kingdom. Okay. So then there's a question, right? There's a big question mark in this prophecy, which relates to the 10 kings, because the 10 kings are coming from the fourth kingdom that is made of iron and is intermixing with clay. Okay. So let's actually continue down this mystery. All right. That's the kingdom of bronze. And so far we have our three kingdoms that match this dream that Nebuchadnezzar asked Daniel to reveal to him. Okay. It starts with Babylon, and then it goes to Medo-Persia, and then it climaxes with the Grecian Empire. Okay. So the question is, who is the fourth kingdom? Because the 10 toes, which we're going to learn later are the 10 kings, is going to arise from this kingdom. So it's going to be very important for us to understand what it is. Well, luckily, the Bible gives us some information. It's kind of a mystery. But for one, the fourth kingdom is never named like the others. Okay, you actually have Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece specifically named as the nations in the statue within Daniel. But when it comes to the fourth, it doesn't say Rome or it doesn't say the Ottoman Empire. It just is not named. And we're supposed to infer what it is based off the previous three kingdoms. So we're given the identity of the first three kingdoms, and Daniel 7 and Revelation 13 are needed to fully understand the third or the fourth kingdom, right? So it says right here, finally, there will be a fourth kingdom strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all of these. The these that it's describing in this verse is actually the previous three kingdoms. So you can interpose in there, it'll say, look, this thing is going to be made of iron, and as iron breaks things into pieces, it's going to break these other kingdoms. That's what essentially what it's saying. Then you have the feet, which is a mixture of iron and clay. This is where the 10 toes come in. He said, just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. That's our second indicator. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. Okay, so let's try to identify the fourth kingdom with the markers that we have been given. Thanks for everybody who's joining. We got 100 people in the live. This is great. Let me know your opinions down below. Here's what Daniel 2 tells us, okay? The fourth kingdom is going to be as strong as iron. It's going to be the strongest kingdom, yet most diverse, less valuable, or less pure. Okay, gold is a very pure element, whereas iron is not. You can kind of see the difference here. It's going to break to pieces all of the other kingdoms, and it is fundamentally a divided kingdom. Okay, that's what we learned. So now, guys, and hopefully you guys are sticking with me. I don't want this to go too long or too over anybody's head. We need to understand these beasts before anybody says anything about the 10 kings. Because when I do research, I've done research on this video for a while, and people just jump right into the prophecy without giving proper context, and that's why they're getting it wrong. If you look at all of the videos on YouTube right now on this topic, most of them are looking in the wrong direction. So when we compare Daniel 2 to Daniel 7, we're going to find something really interesting that happens. Okay. Daniel 7, verse 7. Daniel was given another vision, okay, and it was actually at nighttime. So in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a fourth beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth, and it crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. And it had 10 horns. So just as the legs of iron had 10 toes, so this beast, who's also made of iron or is having iron weapons, has 10 horns. Okay. So let's compare Daniel 2 to Daniel 7. Right? Daniel 2, we learned that it's as strong as iron. It breaks and crushes all the others, and the kingdom will be divided. Daniel 7 says this beast will have large iron teeth. It'll crush and devour its victims, trampling underfoot whatever was left. And it's different from the former kingdoms. All right, we're starting to get deeper, guys. This is starting to get crazy. So we have 4 identifying markers now once we compare and contrast. It's as strong as iron, breaks and crushes, devours. It's a divided kingdom, and it's different from all the former kingdoms. Okay. So what's going to happen is as we look into the statue, we're going to see some things are going to start to happen. This fourth kingdom is going to break and crush Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece, the regions that they formed. Just as Greece completely conquered Medo-Persia, and just as Medo-Persia completely conquered Babylon, so the fourth kingdom will conquer all of this. Okay. It's going to be a divided kingdom. And so this is where a lot of people say that it is Rome. This is where people are going in the wrong direction. And I'm going to show you exactly why. It cannot be Rome for specific reasons. Let's check this out. The reasoning behind the fact that people say it's Rome is because, oh, the Iron Legion, the Romans were using iron weapons. And so clearly it must be Rome. And didn't Rome capture all of the land of the Middle East, right? The Iron Legion. And so the theory is that Rome was divided, somewhere between 476 AD under all of the Germanic and English tribes. And that was essentially the fall of the West. So people say, look, Rome was the West and the East. So that's the division that's being formed. Rome was divided into East and West. Okay. But unfortunately, if you believe that this is Rome, you actually miss the key, basically the key to understanding who this fourth kingdom is. Because what is it the fourth kingdom does? He breaks, shatters, tears to pieces all of these other kingdoms. So the question is, did Rome do that? Well, this is the Roman Empire. Okay. Are we noticing anything that's a little off? The Roman Empire is primarily a Western empire, right? It didn't even, at the height, it didn't even really get into the Fertile Crescent right there, which is where Babylon was. And it certainly didn't get into Persia, which is where the second beast came from. Okay. This is the height of the Roman Empire was right here. So yeah, I mean, it definitely took over Babylon, but it never took over the land of Iran or Persia, which is specifically what the fourth kingdom has to do. Okay. So how could Rome be the crushing empire, this great empire of iron that breaks and crushes, if it didn't crush the previous three? Rome did not meet the requirement. And so the truth about the Iron Kingdom is that the iron is very specific. We read right here, there shall be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, because iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. And like iron that crushes, it shall break and crush all of these beasts. That's going to be the key. Okay. So the fourth kingdom must conquer the previous three, which leaves us, guys, with only one option. There's only one other option that can ever be placed into this theory, which is, drum roll please, the fourth kingdom must conquer this. That's the Roman. Okay, we're going to skip through all this real quick. And drum roll please, it's missing Persia, as I've shown you guys. Sorry, guys. I thought I put the slide on right there, but we're just going to have to go through all the slides. Important to note, too, that if you compare Daniel 2 to Daniel 7, you're going to notice that there are three beasts, not three metals. So there's going to be the lion, the leopard, and a bear. So the lion represents the Babylonian, okay? The bear represents the Medo-Persian Empire. And then the Grecian Empire represents the four-headed leopard. That's essentially what you have to understand. Greece, or Yavan, which is primarily Turkey or Anatolia, is where that leopard reigns, according to the book of Daniel. So in Revelation 13, when it says that the beast that I saw with 10 horns, just like in Daniel 7, was like a lion, like a leopard, and had the feet of a bear. So it actually had the mouth of the lion, had the feet of a bear, and had the body of a leopard. So what Revelation is trying to tell us, it's doing it in very simple terms. Like, this is actually grade school. You know, a kindergartner could come up with this. It's so easy, and that's what's awesome about the Bible, is that the fourth beast will encompass the body parts or the geographic regions of the lion, leopard, and bear. And lo and behold, this is what we're looking at right here on the screen. That's what it is. Okay. So now that we connected it all together, the fourth kingdom is a combination of the previous kingdoms. That's the main point we're trying to get across. Rome does not fit the biblical description because it didn't conquer and crush the lands surrounding these beasts. It didn't do it. Okay, and so that leaves us, I mean, if you were to believe in the Roman Empire, you'd have a massive hole right here, which is the bear, right? So it cannot be Rome, has to be something else. Rome is not the Iron Kingdom, okay, but who is? It must be the Islamic caliphate. Look at this empire right here, how it totally exceeds the boundaries of all of the others. It's got Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece. It even got into kind of the west right over there, and it completely took over North Africa, which North African nations are going to be a part of this 10 king mystery, and we're going to get to that. Make sure you continue watching this video. This is the Islamic caliphate, okay? The caliphate was established in 632 AD, okay? And it encompasses the lion, leopard, and bear, okay? So the fourth kingdom must be Islamic. It seems to be the only viable option because the caliphate totally dominated the regions of the lion, leopard, and bear. It's the only one that ever did it. Okay. It crushed and devoured all of the rest, both militarily, culturally, and spiritually. So think about the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire, what it did was it conquered the lands, but it kind of allowed them to hang on to their gods. It allowed them to just kind of do their own thing. Not with the Islamic Caliphate. The Islamic Caliphate took over all of the lands under jihad and declared that you must become a Muslim. And to any Jew or Christian that does not become a Muslim, you're going to have to pay the income tax for non-Muslims. So imagine, kind of like with us, we're paying what, 30% of taxes in America right now, like 25 to 30%. And then imagine you had another 10% income tax because you're not a Muslim. That's what it was like back then. So we can say that this Islamic Caliphate crushed, devoured all of the lands that it came across militarily, culturally, and spiritually. It totally destroyed cultures and imposed its own culture. Okay. The caliphate was different from the rest of the beasts because it was a theocratic government. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, these were monarchies. These were under absolute, basically absolute dictatorships. Alexander the Great was a dictator. Cyrus was a dictator. It was one monarchy under a monarch. However, this kingdom, the Islamic one, is not like that. It is essentially a theocratic religious empire that is imposing itself on the Middle East. Okay. So hopefully, guys, that makes sense. Let's continue this journey to understand the 10 kings. Okay. We're going to skip through a little bit. So therefore, within the dream, we can confidently say that the Islamic Caliphate is the iron. And it's not just the Caliphate, but it's going to be the Middle East. The Middle East is going to be where this fourth kingdom ultimately comes from. Look at the vision that was given to Daniel. Actually, no, we're going to skip this part, guys. Sorry. So we're going to kind of go forward a little bit. Right. So I'm pretty sure we made the case based off these slides, kind of what's going on. Okay. So now we're going to move into the 10 kings, because if in Daniel 2, there is the feet of iron and clay, and they're trying to intermix, they're trying to intermingle or mingle, they're trying to, kind of create this partnership between them, and they never are able to get it. That would be representing as the Sunni and Shia split, because the Sunnis constitute 85% of the Muslim world, and then you have the Shias that constitute around 15%, and they never clash, they never mix. Iran specifically is a Shia nation, whereas like Saudi Arabia is more of like a Sunni. And so these nations are constantly clashing against each other, and they're not intermingling. That would be what I believe is the correct interpretation of the iron and the clay. Okay. So we go back to Daniel 2. I want us to go back here, and we're going to look. I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. We're going to go back all the way back to these slides. Way back here. Okay. Where we have the feet. So it says the feet, just as you saw, the iron, or the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron. So this will be a divided kingdom. This kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. They will mix in the seed of men, and they will not mix. So what we can do now is we can compare this with Revelation 13 and Revelation 17 in order to get a better indication of this beast. So Revelation 13, I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns, there it is, and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its head. Here it is again. The beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it, the dragon gave his power and his throne and his great authority. Right. So that's what's happening in this context. However, we actually get more information in Revelation 17 that will blow your mind. I mean, literally, it's amazing. What happens here is the angel is giving the mystery to John, much like the angel did the same thing in Daniel. John is receiving this message from an angel, and the angel is saying, why do you marvel at all this? I'm actually going to tell you the secret. I'm going to tell you what this is, that you can understand it or perhaps even study it. We move down here. It says in verse 12, the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Very, very interesting. So these 10 kings, what they're going to do is they're going to rise up from the Middle East, from the iron that crushed and devoured everything. They're going to rise up from it. And then the Antichrist is going to rise up after. And these 10 kings are going to give their authority to the Antichrist. That's what it says in Revelation 17. So this is where the mystery starts to get even deeper, because as we go down this rabbit hole, we really start to put everything together and to put all the major points into where they need to be. Okay, so if we know that that's going to happen from Revelation 13, then we want to identify what nations it's talking about. Okay, is it talking about, Europe? Is it talking about America? Is it talking about, even Greece? Absolutely not. The Bible is very specific as to which nations it is speaking about. Let's go to Daniel chapter. Actually, let's start at Zechariah chapter 12. So this is what the Lord gave to the prophet Zechariah that perfectly, mimics what we're speaking about. It says right here, the oracle of the word of the Lord concerning Israel. Thus declares the Lord God, who stretched out the heavens and founded the earth and formed the spirit within man. Behold, I am about to make Jerusalem a cup of staggering to all the surrounding peoples. This is in the Hebrew. It actually is goyim, which means the nations surrounding Israel. That's what it essentially means. Let me get this on stage for you guys so you can see this. He's going to take all of the surrounding peoples, the surrounding nations, and he's going to have them lay siege to Jerusalem, right? On that day, I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone, for all the peoples who lift it will surely hurt themselves, and all the nations of the earth will gather against it. Okay? That is what it's speaking about. Now, if we look at a map of the nations surrounding Israel when this prophecy was given, these are the nations: Moab, Edom, Ammon, the Hagrites, Tyre, you have Libya, modern day Syria, and then you have the Assyrian Empire, which is Iran. These are going to be the nations that the Bible speaks. Where these 10 kings are going to come from are these regions. Perfectly. I mean, it makes sense once you connect all the dots together, right? Psalm 83 also gives us another indication of what is going to take place. Oh. Can you guys hear me? I think my audio just went out. Somebody type below if you can hear me. Pretty sure it's working. Okay, yeah, it is working. Sorry, guys. That was super awkward. my mic just stopped working for some reason. Okay, so we got 130 in the live. Appreciate it, guys. We made a goal where if we're gonna have 5 super chats, I will do a question and answer period after this. That's how you guys can support this channel. Also, you can support this channel by becoming a Patreon member. Okay, I'll have this right here. We're doing all sorts of exciting projects, including documentary series. I'm teaching you guys also how I make shorts, which is really cool. And then you will receive sneak peeks into my videos. Also, we have a Discord server that you can gain access to if you join the Patreon today. So appreciate it, guys, if that's what you want to do, support. If not, we're not holding a gun to your head like Islam would. Okay. Psalm 83 is going to complete this mystery, because we know that God is going to bring the surrounding nations or even all the nations against Jerusalem. But look at what Psalm 83 says specifically. Psalm 83 says, "Do not hold your peace or be still, O God, for behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. They lay crafty plans against your people and consult together against your treasured ones. They say, 'Come, let us wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they conspire with one accord.'" Again, they make a covenant. This would be the false covenant that they make with the Antichrist. It's talking about that false peace treaty. And it's also talking about when these kings are given power, it's like they're going to raise up their heads, they're going to chin up, and they're going to say, "There's no one like me." Revelation 13 says, "Who can wage war against the beast?" That's essentially what it's saying. And so, who are these countries? Is it Europe? Is it any, France, Germany? Is it, Tanzania? Is it any of these countries? No. These are going to be Middle Eastern nations. It says, "For they conspire with one accord. Against you they make a covenant. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also has joined them. They are strong. They are the strong arm of the children of Lot." Okay, let's get this map back up. This is going to be the map. Okay, these are the 10 kings. This is where the 10 kings are coming from, are these regions. So my question is, this is ultimately a question to the Bible prophecy community. Why are we looking towards the West? Why are we looking towards these other places when the Bible is telling us to look towards the East? It's telling us to look literally into the Middle East. That's where these 10 kings are coming from. Okay. So hopefully that clarified who those 10 kings are, guys. They have not yet arisen, and they're going to arise for 1 hour, and they're going to give their authority over to the beast. So these 10 kings, when they rise from the Middle East, they're going to be extremely powerful. They're going to be extremely gifted, probably working, lying wonders, doing signs, and doing all of these terrible magical things. That's where they're going to rise up. And then the Antichrist will rise up, and he will give his authority to the Antichrist, all of the 10 kings. Okay. So let's see here. Looks like we got one super chat by Carmen. I appreciate that, Carmen. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Okay. Oh, looks like somebody's calling me. Excuse me, guys. Yep. So that's really the end of the live, guys. If you guys want to do a question and answer, make sure to try to hit me up with some super chats. And if you want to put your question in the super chat, it'd probably be a lot easier for me to read, because it's got like an actual background. Let's see here. Let's go back to Zechariah 12 as we continue. So as we go kind of deep into this mystery, we're going to look at what the prophet Zechariah said was going to happen. Okay. On that day, declares the Lord, this is the day that the nations gather against Israel. I will strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness. But for the sake of the house of Judah, I will keep my eyes open when I strike every horse of the people with blindness. Then the clans of Judah shall say to themselves, shall say to themselves, the inhabitants of Jerusalem have strength through the Lord of hosts, their God. On that day, I will make the clans of Judah like a blazing pot. Okay. Man, my computer is lagging, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I think we're just gonna finish here, guys. Appreciate it, Shay. We got another $4.99. She wanted to support, so I appreciate that. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Maybe I can just get your guys' thoughts on what you think the 10 kings are. Because when I first came into the Bible prophecy space, I used to think that they were European nations, right? The EU, the United Nations. And it makes sense because you see all of the most powerful nations on earth coming together and, conspiring on how to either get Israel off the map or help Israel. Luckily for us, Israel has been on the good side of the United Nations and the good side of America. And I believe that that's God's providence, right? God is smart in how he's enacting this. He's essentially making Israel kind of its own little democracy in the Middle East. And it's going to thrive and thrive and thrive until the Antichrist rises. And the question is, who is going to be the one that Israel puts their trust in when he rises? Are they going to put their trust in God, Yahweh, to help save them, or are they going to put their trust in the Antichrist? And the Bible unfortunately says that they will put their trust in the Antichrist. Okay. And that's why there's going to be 3.5 years of just terrible, terrible, times. Okay. So, guys, we just need 3 more super chats. I'll go ahead and do that live. I'm going to get this up here for you guys. And let me see if I got any statements. I think the probe. This guy says, I think they don't have to be kings now if they are made kings when it happens. Absolutely. And it is kind of a mystery too. Like, so when we go back to Revelation 13, let me get this back up on stage for you guys. When we go back to Revelation 13, there's a mystery here because these 10 horns are on top of one of the heads of the beast. So we know one of the heads of the beast is gonna be wounded, and then it's gonna come back, and that's going to be what is the final kingdom, right? Which I believe is the Assyrian Empire. But from one of the heads comes 10 horns, and these 10 horns have the 10 diadems on them. So they are given authority by the dragon. If we go back to Revelation 12, it says right here, and another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. So the dragon is an identical, or actually we could say it like this: the beast is identical to the dragon. The dragon, which is Lucifer, has 7 heads, has 10 horns, but the diadems are actually on the heads. However, when the devil gives his authority to the beast, those diadem crowns, which represents authority, are going to be given to the horns. So they're going to be given power and authority by the devil on this day to try to wipe out Jerusalem. That's going to be his big master plan, which is hilarious because we know what's going to happen. But if we know Satan is coming with these 10 kings from the Middle East, we need to be watching in that direction. That's the only way that we can do it. Okay. Yeah, guys. So I think that's going to be it. Okay. Appreciate everybody joining, and hopefully you got something out of this live stream. Have a blessed Saturday.